So I hope you're all doing great and welcome back to another Power Sunday, and in this video I'm going to go through a few updates in Power involving Roberto's return, the head of the Soldado Nation, the TAINIO'S and Cristobol, and potentially even the RSK'S returning at some point in the future. But if you are new to the channel, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power Universe related, especially with Power Book 3 Raising Kanan premiering on July the 18th. But let's talk about these storylines in Ghost, because the first season of Power Book 2 Ghost came away from the streets, but I don't think the second season storyline will follow the same path as it did in the first season with Tariq and Brayden in college, and there's a few factors that will play a role in this. The death of Bars at Stansfield and the death of Jabari, which will make Stansfield almost impossible for Tariq and Brayden to run their drug app and organization. Returning characters also seem to be a bit of a theme in Power Book 2 Ghost, mainly because the storyline picked up from where it left off at the end of Power, but Power Book 2 Ghost now is a completely new clean slate to take the show in whichever direction they want to take it in. The final storyline which has been buried for now was Tasha and her case, because now she's in Witsec to reappear in the future at some point. But with the theme of the returning characters, and mainly characters such as 2-Bit, the rumoured return of Cristobol, and now the head of the Soldado Nation, Roberto, it's hard not to think the street element is going to be rife in the second season of Ghost, or possibly even more scenes in prison. And for those who forgot who Roberto is, it's easy to see why, because he never really played a big role in Power, but he eventually became the head of the Soldado Nation after Ruiz was killed by Tommy, making Poncho the head of the organization. Poncho was then killed by Tommy after he told him he wasn't shit without Ghost, which left Roberto to be the head of the Soldado Nation. He's rumoured to be back in episode 6 according to IMDb, but the last time we saw him was when he was getting arrested with 2-Bit along with Spanky at Tommy's warehouse. Now Spanky was only processed out of prison for stitching on Tommy. 2-Bit was released with the help of Davis McLean and Tasha's case. Although Roberto was arrested along with 2-Bit and Spanky at Tommy's warehouse, we never actually saw him at the same prison with them. Spanky briefly mentioned he saw Roberto at the same prison, but just like Cristobol, that was the last time we saw or heard about Roberto, but he's going to be returning for season 2 of Power Book 2 Ghost according to IMDb anyway. But we don't know whether he's going to be in prison or whether he's going to be free. Now the reason why I think Roberto may just not be in prison this coming season is because of the shady shit that Blanca Rodriguez had to pull with Dre's ankle monitor and her being suspended from her job, and similarly to the way 2-Bit was released, I think they could find a way where Roberto could find his way out of prison as well, because are they really going to find any charges that stick to Roberto or Cristobol? And hence the street element of Power returning, the Soldado Nation back playing more of a role in the season 2 of Power Book 2 Ghost. Alternatively, they could go in the direction of Roberto and Cristobol being in prison. It would then make sense for them to be in the same prison as Lorenzo and them being connected at some point or have connected in the past, and it could seem plausible for them to be in the same prison and have some sort of connection. But regardless of whether Roberto is in prison or on the streets, I still think the streets is definitely going to be a huge element in season 2, and probably why we're having characters such as Roberto and Cristobol return, the new connect, and why Lil Guap is still alive. And I just wonder whether 2-Bit will work alongside Roberto if he is free, and could they possibly even go up against Cristobol, because there is history there. Another factor that we need to take into consideration is where do the Tadas and Lil Guap come into this and the new connect Mecca. Lil Guap was nowhere to be seen in the last episode, and his connect Rico was of course killed by Monet in the season finale, so he's going to be looking out for a new connect, possibly Mecca as well. But who's going to be working with Lil Guap? Will Kane continue working with him, or is he going to get back in with the Tadas? One thing Kane will do though is he will definitely regret not killing Lil Guap when he had the chance, because Guap made the comment about GTG taking eye for an eye to the grave, and at some point one of the Tadas will pay, and I still think it's going to be Zeke, especially because Power doesn't do any happy endings, and with him being so valuable to Monet and the Tada family because he's their way out of the game, it's hard not to think that he could be the one to bite the dust, which would send shockwaves down the Tada family with his death. So that is going to be one of my early death predictions when season 2 comes, which I'm sure I mentioned in the previous death predictions video anyway. But let's talk about the RSK'S, because with Roberto the head of the Soldado Nation and Cristobol the head of the TAINIO'S returning, then what's to say at some point in the future the RSK'S won't return? Roller and Q-Dubs were killed off of the RSK'S by Ghost who killed Roller, and Kanan and Tommy who killed Q-Dubs and some of his soldiers. But just like we've seen with the Soldado Nation, you kill a leader and a new leader is born within their organization. They're bound to be around their old stomping ground, and at some point there are a group that could potentially return in the future. One thing which is key is Roller mentioned that he had some cousins and some RSK'S out in Miami in a conversation with Ghost, so the RSK'S are definitely not dead and buried just yet. There was a Trenton beef that was mentioned by Ghost in a conversation with Kanan, and this is why I do believe Power Book 2 Ghost is just getting started with their storyline. As I said before, they have a clean slate to take this show in whichever direction they want to take it in, and I feel the street element is there to explore once again starting in season 2. Lorenzo will still of course be in prison. I'm not sure how big of a role he'll play unless Cristobol and Roberto are inside with him, which is a possibility as I discussed just a moment ago. But this is why I think we should all be excited about Power Book 2 Ghost Season 2, because of the returning characters, the street element which looks like it's going to be back with the Soldado Nation's leader Roberto coming back, Cristobol being back, and adding to the mix the new connect Mecca. There's also going to be 2-Bit Two-Bit, Tariq and Kane, how do they all fit into the storyline together? Will they work together? Will they work against each other? Tariq will have to step up majorly this coming season because as smart as he is, he's not going to have Tash's advice where he relied so heavily on in this first season. And although Tariq does have leadership qualities, he's not a soldier, not just yet anyway. Two-Bit could be Tariq's soldier and muscle and want to mentor him in that side of the game, as I've said in a few previous videos, and we've already seen hints of Two-Bit doing this already by telling Tariq to wipe down everything he touched after he killed Boz. Continuing to pay Two-Bit for his protection is certainly one way they can do this, and I still wouldn't rule out a crossover between Power Book 4 Force at some point. It doesn't necessarily have to be in Season 2, but at some point I wouldn't be surprised at a crossover, because how do we know Tommy went straight to Chicago after the graveyard scene in Power Book 2 Ghost season finale? I'm sure that question will be answered at the beginning of Power Book 4 Force if it picks up straight away from the graveyard scene, or if it picks up from Season 6 episode 13, then they'll still have to answer the same questions. But that's what I wanted to discuss this Sunday after IMDb listed Roberto as a character who's returning on Power Book 2 Ghost. So let me know what you think. Could we see the return of the RSK'S at some point? Is the street element coming back to Power Book 2 Ghost in Season 2? Because I certainly think it is. Drop all your comments down below, and of course if you're new to the channel, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power Universe related. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.